Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second hour of BNC Live. I'm Najahe Sherman, and today for Tashani Whitlow. A settlement has been reached between the Justice Department and the families of the 9 people killed in a racist attack at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. The settlement is a result of the DOJ's faulty background check that allowed Dylann Roof to buy the gun that he used in that 2015 massacre. The $88 million deal includes $63 million for the families of the slain and $25 million for survivors of the shooting. Following the decision, members of the families spoke out about the massacre and what the settlement means to them. Take a listen.
Yes, there is a settlement, and you know, I don't think about that. I think about if I had the opportunity to bring Clemente back, I'd switch. You can all take the settlement, bring my husband back to me, bring their father back to them.
For the first time, I think in so long, as a young African-American woman, to see a government acknowledge the fact that racism still exists and how prevalent it is in our country, and for them to actively try to combat it in every way they can, and to acknowledge the fact that gun violence is an issue, and to do everything they can to correct a mistake that happened, is so important to me.
Joining us now to discuss this issue is Democratic member of the South Carolina Senate who was at the announcement yesterday, Senator Sabb. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Najahe, for having me.
Senator, what was it like to be there when this settlement was reached?
Well, obviously it was a very important moment in the lives of the families who've been affected one way or another by the tragedy. And as the young lady stated, and I don't believe I could say it any better, it's just a wonderful thing to have the government acknowledge that there were unfortunately mistakes made that led to the possibility of this kind of event occurring. And so it's just good to reach the point where there is some finality. And I think it gives these victims and their families an opportunity to move forward.
And what potentially could this mean for hate crimes cases moving forward?
Well, that's really an unknown, but here's one of the things that I hope. We have 3 states in our nation that do not have hate crime legislation, my state being one of them. And so the hope is that it will, again, rekindle the momentum, and that we can finally get some hate crime legislation passed. Currently, we have a bill that's pending before the South Carolina Senate. It has gone through the subcommittee. It has gone through the full committee, the Judiciary Committee, of which I'm a part. Now we've got an opportunity to bring it to the floor of the South Carolina Senate. And it's my hope that those who are watching know and realize the importance of the passage of the legislation, and that we can finally get it across the finish line.
The FBI has reported a 10-year high in hate crimes back in 2019. Most of which were said to be motivated by racial or ethnic bias. What do you think is causing this increase in hate crimes?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I think if I knew it, I could bottle it up and sell it and perhaps be a well-to-do individual. I don't get it. You know, people ought to be tolerant of each other. We're all different. I mean, God just made us different. But we ought to appreciate and embrace our differences, as opposed to using it as a wedge to somehow conclude that we are superior to another race, and is something about them that leads us to the point where we've got to do something evil, something violent towards them. It's really just a sickness in our society. And I know that one of the deterrents is the law. But beyond that, as a society, we have got to learn to talk to each other, to learn about our differences and embrace them, because that's what makes America the great country that we are. And so it troubles me to see the direction that we're going in. But I do believe that as Americans, we are the greatest country in the world, and this is a problem that we can combat. And so it's my hope that the conversations continue, that the awareness becomes more prevalent in all of our communities, and that as a result, we can tackle it community by community. I don't think that the issue is as large as our nation. I believe that we've got to look at it from a community standpoint, and each community that embraces the diversity, it makes us stronger as state and ultimately as a nation. And so that's my hope.
Yes, all of our hope. I want to talk about the research because it shows that several states actually list Black people as hate crime offenders at a rate of nearly 1 to 3 times the size of the state's Black population. Do you think that this is an example of racial bias within our reporting or law enforcement agencies?
I have to believe that research is skewed. There's just simply no way. And one of the things that I appreciate that came out of the press conference that we had the other day was when Attorney Bakari Sellers just made clear that one of the problems in America is really hate crime being performed by white supremacists. And so I don't know whether or not it's underreporting, but I simply cannot accept those numbers as being factual.
I want to get your thoughts on this because, you know, right now hate crimes are mostly handled by the FBI. Do you think that's a good thing, or should more states have laws to address these crimes?
I will just tell you that we had the fortunate opportunity to sit down with our Attorney General Merrick Garland, and he absolutely gets it. He knows that the reason for the existence of the Department of Justice is hate crimes and crimes that are committed because of those kinds of innate biases that some of us have. And so I have confidence in this current administration and their approach to trying to stamp it out. I have confidence in the FBI's ability and their commitment to do everything that they can to make everybody safe. That is not to say that others being a part of the team won't in fact help. And so I think the more the merrier, but I'm comfortable in where we are as a nation as it relates to that.
We know in May, Biden signed legislation to address hate crimes, which directs the DOJ to streamline the review of hate crimes related to the pandemic. Do you think that this approach has really helped address the issues at all?
It has. I mean, I think it's been another instance where the ball has been advanced. Is that the end all do all? No. But what it indicates is that we've got a president whose thought process is in the right place, and it's clear that he's trying to do everything that he can to combat these racial and ethnic and other types of biases that hate crime legislation is designed to address. And so I could not have been more prouder of the action that the president took as quickly as he took it once he became president of these United States of America.
And just your final thoughts, I want to ask you, how is your community healing 6 years after the massacre?
The people of Charleston have been absolutely extraordinary. The grace that was displayed on that day when they had the bond hearing, and you know, that was actually a bond hearing that should not have been held. But you know, God has a way. And so they have embraced this tragedy and have attempted to use it as a catalyst to promote justice and peace, not only in the state of South Carolina, but around the world. And when I think about the individual that I represented, the Reverend Daniel Simmons, you know, he's one of these people that was a strong soldier for Christ and for the country, having served in the Vietnam War. And when this tragedy occurred, he didn't run from it, he ran towards it. He was the one that tried to tackle Dylann Roof. Unfortunately, his body was riddled with bullets and he didn't get there. But I think it's the resiliency of the people who lost their lives and those survivors that, in effect, in my opinion, has moved and advanced the ball, not only in our community, but around the world. And so I believe that our community is a good, solid community and has an appreciation for what we've experienced, realizing that those things that are bad oftentimes work for the good.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon on BNC Live.